So do you still have your kids in daycare? Hi, I'm Erin, and welcome back to Super Mom Knows Best. And this is part 2 on daycares and preschools and staying at home. I'm going to start off, before we get into it, I'm just going to tell a little quick story about when I worked in a couple of different daycares. Back when I was still in college and needed a summer job, I worked at 2 different daycares over 3 summers, running their summer camp program with the older kiddos. But I paid attention and I subbed in other rooms sometimes, and I saw all the different classes and how they all worked. And I saw kids crying, getting dropped off at 6:30 in the morning, and crying to be picked up at 6:30 in the evening because they no longer recognized mom or dad. They wanted to be with that daycare worker who had taken care of them all day long. I've watched children take their first steps in a daycare and being cheered on by the daycare worker because mom and dad were busy at work. I don't say this to guilt you if you have stuck your children in a daycare. That is what you felt that you needed to do. Sometimes people don't have families or support systems nearby. I personally, there is a teacher at our elementary school who my boys got close with, and they have no family in the state. And on days when their nanny is unable to take care of him, I have babysat their kid because I know they have nowhere else to turn because they don't have a grandparent in town. Kids need to feel safe. They need to feel protected. They need to have a loving environment to grow and thrive. A daycare is not necessarily that. I am not saying there are not good daycares out there. Do not get me wrong. But having worked in them and seeing firsthand, I know daycare workers are expected to be there 5 days a week, as close to open and close as you can get them. And they're overworked. They don't get a day off. They don't get a break. They're expected every day. You can't get sick because they only have enough staff. There aren't extras. There aren't subs. It's not like the school system where they have a list of subs that they can just call in. The people you see are the people who are there. They're the ones that have been hired. They are expected to work almost 24/7 with no breaks. That puts a lot of strain. If that employee is not happy, if they're miserable, if they hate their job or they're tired or they're worn out or they're frustrated, well, who's going to take the brunt of that frustration? Those kids. The kids are going to take the frustration from those employees because their bosses are expecting them to work at a certain level and to have a smile on their face and to be dancing around the room, but they're tired. They're just tired. They're overworked. And sometimes that just gets us all into a bad situation. We took the route of a private preschool. We did it through a church, and it was a Mother's Morning Out program that went from 9 to 1, a couple of days a week. I did that because I wanted my kiddos to learn how to socialize and play with other kids, but just for a little bit. It gave me a break, I'm not going to lie, to where I could run to Kroger and go grocery shopping by myself. But it gave them that chance to be social and to learn some letters and to learn some shapes and to learn some colors. And it also gave them the sense to start learning how to self-soothe and making sure that they could handle life without me for a little bit. The thing we fall into is that a stay-at-home parent is always there, and the kid thinks that safety net is always going to be there. That's why you have kids who have never been separated at all going to kindergarten for the first time, clinging to mom for dear life because they don't know how it is to be separated. That's not the best situation either. I find that preschools are that happy balance. It gives them a chance to be independent and to learn mom will be back. Mom promises to be back in 4 short hours. I'm to go play and have fun, and then she will come get me at 1 o'clock and we will go home and snuggle and go fall asleep to some silly cartoons. You don't want to cut them off at the knees cold turkey, sending them off to kindergarten for the first time. But you don't want to teach them from birth that you have to do without me for 12 hours a day and good luck. Again, it comes back to they need that love and support and that safety net. They have to know that you're going to be there for them no matter what, but sometimes I fall on the playground and I have to dust myself off. When a parent leaves a kid, the kid almost holds their breath. They hold their breath that whole time until you return. You can hold your breath for maybe a minute, but the idea of making that 1-year-old hold their breath for 12 hours, waiting to see if you're going to come back for them, and then running the risk of them being with an overworked daycare worker who's not going to love and support your baby like you would. Or you have the opposite of where you miss big events, walking for the first time, saying the first word, tying their shoes, feeding themselves, getting potty trained. Do you want to miss out on everything because your job says you have to? I saw earlier this week that a family psychologist suggested that maybe it would be best for a parent to only work half the day. Only make your kids hold their breath for a little while and then have the rest of the day to be with them if you have to send them to daycare. Now, for me, that was the same as sending them off to preschool. They only went 2 days a week, 3 days a week, and at the most 4 when they got older. But again, it was always just 4 hours at a time. Never gone any longer. Ideally, if you can't stay home, then you want to have them with a trusted family member or a friend, a babysitter, a nanny, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle. That's the best options. If you have to do that daycare route, do your research. Make sure you're in the best environment. Make sure that director and those teachers have the same ideals that you have or close to it. What's the school's motto? You don't want to send your baby to the wolves because you need to go work. Remember, our children are our most precious assets and should be treated as such. Remember, if you're going to have those kiddos, then they need to come first. You need to stop saying you and you need to start saying what's best for them. That's my 2 cents on daycares and preschools. Thank you for joining me for part 2. If you like what I had to say, please like, share, subscribe, and I will see you next time.